You've talked a lot about QRSS, so now tell us about Keith Spalsbury's role and how progress is going to be communicated.
Keith, you're in charge of QRSS, right? Now, this is Keith Spalsbury. Stand up and everybody say hi to Keith. Remember when that nuclear physicist guy came in and presented to us? Kim remembers it very well. We both walked out of the room going, man, that dude is so smart. He could save the world. I mean, he was that smart. He was so impressive. And then he told us that if you want me to walk in your offices, it'll be $750,000 for the first year. And I'm not kidding you. You about had a small heart attack. This isn't going to happen. We ain't got $750 sitting around here. So then it became, well, we still need to move the mission forward. We have a lot of skills in this room, but we were kind of thinking that this engineer had some techniques that we could buy, that he could teach us, help us. I couldn't afford him for very long, but I wanted him to kind of inoculate us with the ways that this nuclear power plant was run, and we're going to teach you all how to run a nuclear power plant. And we couldn't afford him, so we went hunting for other consultants that really had worked in hospitals. Hospitals can do no error. They can't. And apparently they did. And the hospital's been on this kick for quality. It's a big part of the Affordable Care Act is paying for quality. It's really a good outcome. I know we all poke at the Affordable Care Act, but I'll tell you there are pieces of it that are brilliant. And we'd have done it no matter who was president. I mean, it needed to happen. We were wasting money in our healthcare system. So I want you to know that frankly, I like all of it, if you want to know my bent on it. But irrespective, parts of it are very, very good. So we went out trying to find a consultant to help us. Daryl Green has been working with us now for about 9 months. And Daryl came from the Cleveland Clinic. Good reputation, right? And we were telling him we're trying to form a team that will stay with us forever, that would help all of us discover ways to self-improve, and that's really what's happening. We're not asking them to improve us. We're getting them to teach us how to improve ourselves, how to recognize a flaw. And so he said, I had a guy that worked for me at the Cleveland Clinic. You should go hire. And he is not a doctor, and he's not a nurse. Isn't that weird? He's an engineer. And he's going to help us daydream about different ways to get better as an organization. I will tell you the first 3 years at least, something like that, we're going to spend our time in skilled nursing and then probably from skilled nursing into assisted living and maybe into home health. Why would I spend so much time there initially and not unveil on this? Well, I want you all to move the mission forward. This is not Keith's job. It will not happen if you think it's Keith's job. But in the unique space of healthcare, we've got to do this really fast because we could be an afterthought in 12 to 18 months. If we're not best of class all the time, Medicare, Medicaid, Humana, Aetna, you name the insurance company will say, that was a nice nursing home, First Community Village. Wonder when that closed. They're not interested in saving us. They're interested in seeing the organizations that have the skills to move the mission forward. Now we'll align with those organizations. So I want to walk into Riverside and tell them, you can't exclude me from your top 16 because I'm an innovator. Everybody that works at National Church Residences is the best in class. A little bravado right now. I agree, it's not real. But at some point, we're going to declare to him, we have the best metrics anywhere. Come here and we'll show you. He's going to bring that perspective from hospital thinking. This is what they've been doing for the last 10 years. And you have 4 members on your team. Now that Tatton is returning, he's one of the 4 members of your team. And we have Justin. And we have a third position that's vacant, right? And they're aligned with our information technology team, which you think of as being the whole programming team and Kim Spidell and IT. But it's not technology. Ultimately, they'll be going to technology and saying, hey, can you give me this bell and whistle to make it run? It's really to engage us in discussions in little groups of 5 about how we can get better. Now, how will it affect quality assurance? Mission forward. You don't know yet, do you? So you have to sit there and daydream. I'm looking at you, and she's nodding her head. But there's an element of this. Everybody's saying, thank goodness Mission Forward doesn't apply to me. It does. I was going to say something else. I'm glad I didn't say it. It applies to you. Mission Forward applies to all of us. He's going to spend these first couple of years studying. Right now, they're really active at a nursing home. You know what the frontline worker on the nursing home decided was the most important metric? The amount of time that it takes from when a resident presses the call button until they show up. And so they are measuring that amount of time. And it started out, on average, it was 8 minutes. What was the number, Kim? Not that good.
They're measuring escalations above a 6-minute time.
So anything that's above 6 is unacceptable. Well, if you're laying in that bed and you can't get up because you've just had knee replacement surgery and you're waiting for somebody to come in to help you transfer, and all you can think is, I'm going to have to wet the bed. I cannot wait. That 7th, 8th, and 9th minute, man, you are in serious pain. And what are you thinking about? This is a crappy nursing home. They have no idea that you're down the hall dealing with a heart attack sufferer or somebody has just fallen. So if you measure all of those, you say, how in the world can we get from 6 to 5 to 4 to 3 to 2? And if the call light goes on and somebody's there within a minute every time, when you walk out of that nursing home, what are you going to say? That's the best nursing home I have ever been in my life. We're not there today. That's the #1 metric, and I think they're right. Don't you think they're right? I would never have thought of that. Would you have thought of that? That's because we shared leadership. Keith is in charge of getting those little fires happening all over the organization. Initially, it's happening at First Community Village and at Stigler Village, 2 nursing homes in this market. Why? At this point, it's the most active market with the Affordable Care Act is Columbus for us. Waverly and Chillicothe are still far enough away from this area that a lot of the pilots that are happening in care in innovation in healthcare has not quite hit those markets yet. Man, it's hit Columbus in a big way. We can feel downward pressure on rates, and it's uncomfortable in every way. So we're focused there. I would guess we'll be here for maybe a year or more, trying to get those 2 care environments up to speed to where we can brag anywhere. We're best in class. There's no other nursing home as good as us, and we're going to prove that with these report cards. This isn't me bragging. I'm going to show you how we do it. These are our quality metrics. Here's our reliability metrics. Here's our satisfaction metrics. And over here is our safety metrics. I'd like for you to know if any other nursing home in town can give you this. Nobody can do it. We will. We will. That's your job, right? Something like that? Did I get there? Okay.
Our organization has made great strides with regards to breaking down internal silos and reaching across business lines to find creative and synergistic innovations in service delivery.
Who wrote this question?
It's
You're kidding me. You made that up.
How can I be part of this continuing effort?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. Whew. I didn't prepare this answer in advance. I got to think about this. It is a challenge, isn't it? Because we all have these specific skill sets. I'm an accountant, so if you were to ask me to close the month end, I could do that ineffectively. I'd keep pointing over here. Accountants are probably everywhere. So I'm comfortable with that. So how could I apply that skill in this silo, accounting? How can I move over and apply that accounting skill in a silo called healthcare? How can I go leave my accounting roots behind, and do I have anything to offer in any of these other spaces? And I would tell you I probably didn't know I could until somebody told me or asked me to. I really didn't understand information technology, right? Until I got with Kim and she starts listening, I pick up some of the language of that space, and I begin to take some of my skill sets, accounting skill sets, and compare that to her IT skill sets. And then I sit with Joe Whiteman, or I sit with Linda, and I learn more about the process of giving care. And what I find is that if I wander outside of my space and I choose to learn the language of that second space, I have something to contribute. I think we get in a comfort zone where we say, this is all I can do, this is all I want to do, I don't want to apply it elsewhere, just give me a 9-to-5 job. And I would tell you, I need for your hearts and minds to be engaged. And when your hearts and minds are engaged, your behaviors will change. And when a group of people's behaviors change, the culture will change. And when the culture changes and says, we're all about getting better, we're all about mission forward, we won't be worried about whether or not it's in my sweet space. I want to help. I want to learn. That's the beginning, is the desire to be a part of that. But I struggle with how to blend it all, because I'm oriented, my accounting brain says, well, that fits in the nursing home bucket, and because that's the way accountants think. We put everything into accounts, right? We sort. And so I struggle with this. So when I'm talking with Sherry, I try to explain to her about the Affordable Housing Investment Fund, and we stay in that space. And when I walk over here, I'm talking about buses. But I don't talk about the Affordable Housing Investment Fund, but you kind of want to know about that, but I divide myself up. You do the same thing. And our seniors are navigating into every one of those spaces. They know better about all that because they start out in adult day, and then they have an experience and need a home health aide, and then they have an experience and end up in a nursing home or a hospital first, and then over to our nursing home, and they go from the nursing home, back to home, and they've seen 3 or 4 of our care settings. They find the whole thing very weird, but they're getting an education going from space to space to space, and none of us are. We stay in our space. So we have got to begin to see it from the consumer's perspective. And I heard somebody say this, a famous American say, national church residences will be good when we never discharge anybody from anything. They are with me, national church residences, all the time. You don't get discharged from Mill Run and go home. No, you're a National Church Residences Club member. You're a part of my club no matter where you are. And I know where, it's like I need to almost have one of those GPS devices on every resident to know where they are and just say, Mildred, where are you today? You're still in my club. And so I don't exactly know what the answer is, but I know that the senior marketplace, 350,000 seniors living in Columbus today, needs our help. We can only house 3,500 of them. So that 1%. The other 99% still need help. We're going to have to be able to talk about every care setting so that we can answer the questions at church, answer the questions, wherever you run to people. We need to be that solution for Columbus because it's terribly, terribly confusing. And we're supposed to be the experts, and we can't help. I would tell you part of the vision that I'm daydreaming about is how it is that somebody could call National Church Residences and says, my mother has fallen, and this is the 3rd time she's fallen, and I don't know what to do. And no matter who she calls, all of us will be able to say, Mildred, I know how to help. I'm not going to let this fall, even if you're an accountant, even if you're in charge of IT. You're so familiar with how to help Mildred because you've attended all these little National Church Residences education conferences, and you will not discharge that person. In other words, you won't transfer them, hand them off to somebody else and go, whew, not my problem anymore, which is our problem today. That happens. We don't mean to be a problem. We hand them their medicines in a little bag, and we hand them their discharge papers, and we say, good luck going to the next care setting. Hope it's a good experience at home. We should never let that happen. We should hold on to them all the way to the end. Should be our job.
Mark, the last 2 questions are about the future of the organization. What is your plan for growth over the next 5 years?
When I was interviewed for this job, I can tell you 5 years ago, I never would have believed I'd been here because I remember Tom talking about this and said, I don't feel equipped for this job. But that first aha moment with my dad, that made me equipped. I got my master's degree, and I saw the problem. But Tom and the executive team that's in this room developed this strategic plan. Have you ever seen this before? Problem number 1, right? We know where we're going and you don't. That's a problem. This is 13 pages of where we're going. And I read this, and I think it's a really good plan. And Tom and the board of directors set this scope. My job is to communicate this plan, not change this plan. This is a great plan. The one thing it's missing is an absolute, I'll call it a big, hairy, audacious goal. That thing at the end of 10 years that we can say, we got there. One of the other questions that you all ask, I don't know who asked it, how will we know if we've achieved Mission Forward? Mission Forward will have incremental goals. Wow, we're getting better, but we will never stop getting better. So Mission Forward doesn't ever have a finish. I don't think it'll ever stop. We may pick a new thing to peak at each year. This year it's going to be return to hospitalization or falls or REACT scores or the number of findings you have an audit. Whatever that is, we're going to look at that. But once we get to where that's really sizzling, are we done? No, we're going to pick something else out. We want to always be pushing the mission forward. But a strategic plan should focus on some piercing goal that we as an organization, everybody shares, that when we get there, we go, holy catoli. We set out to do this 10 years ago, and for goodness sakes, we got there? It doesn't really have that big, hairy, audacious goal in here. So the board hired me saying, we're going to follow this plan. I said, you're right, we are. So in October will be my first chance to maybe morph this a little bit, right? Make it a little bit more about what God has given me as a vision.